The great hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such desperation. Admiral Hyun-woo stood before the massive circular chamber, watching as alien species from across the galaxy argued in dozens of different languages. The translator in his ear worked overtime, but the fear in their voices needed no translation. Speaker Veltara, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, raised her staff for silence. Her voice echoed through the chamber as she spoke to the human delegation. Admiral Hyun-woo of the Terran Federation, we call upon your species in our darkest hour. The Vielthon Empire has destroyed 17 of our worlds. Their bioweapons turn our own people against us. Their neural control technology makes our soldiers into their slaves. Hyun-woo looked around the chamber. He saw species he had only read about in Earth's first contact files. The reptilian Korthak delegation hissed softly among themselves. The crystalline luminari flickered with nervous energy. Even the proud warrior race of Mandorians looked defeated. Captain So-min stepped forward from behind Hyun-woo. She had commanded the escort ships that brought them here. Her dark eyes showed the shock of what she had seen on the journey. Speaker Veltara, So-min said, we passed through the Outer Rim territories on our way here. The refugee camps on Zerion Prime hold over 2 million beings. The survivors told us stories that seemed impossible. Veltara's large eyes grew sad. What you saw was only the beginning, Captain. The Vielthon Empire does not simply conquer worlds. They harvest them. They take the strongest minds and turn them into weapons. They use our own biology against us. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a planet covered in strange, pulsing structures. The surface crawled with movement that looked both organic and mechanical. This was Altair 7, Veltara continued. Home to 4 billion Zelkons. The Vielthon Empire arrived 6 months ago. Now look at it. The hologram shifted to show the planet's current state. The entire surface was covered in black web-like structures. Nothing moved. No lights, no cities, no life. The bioweapons consumed everything, a voice said from the Mandorian section. General Thorak, a massive being covered in natural armor. Plates stood slowly. My finest warriors could not even land on the surface. The very air became poison. Hyun-woo studied the hologram carefully. Earth's military had fought many wars, but nothing like this. How many ships does the Vielthon Empire have? Our intelligence suggests over 10,000 vessels, Veltara replied. But their true strength is not in numbers. It is in their ability to adapt. Every strategy we use, they counter within days. Every weapon we develop, they find a defense against. Captain So-min pulled up data on her tablet. Our escort ships detected unusual energy readings throughout this sector. The quantum signatures don't match any known technology. That is correct, Veltara said. The Vielthon Empire uses technology we do not understand. Our scientists believe they found it, rather than developed it. Ancient ruins, perhaps, or worse. Admiral Hyun-woo walked closer to the hologram. He had commanded Earth's fleets for 15 years. He had seen humanity's wars, both the noble and the terrible. But this was different. This was extinction. What? Makes you think humanity can help? He asked. We're new to galactic politics. Our technology is primitive compared to yours. A new voice spoke from the shadows. Dr. Nexular, the chief scientist of the council, stepped into the light. His species resembled walking trees, with bark-like skin and leaves for hair. Admiral, your species has been watched for some time. Not spied upon, but observed. Your energy signatures are unlike any we have encountered. Your neural patterns resist our most advanced scanning technology. When we try to predict human behavior, our computers produce errors." Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow. "You're saying we're unpredictable?" "More than that," Dr. Nexler continued. "You are chaotic in ways that seem to break natural laws. Your warfare tactics change constantly. Your technology develops in random directions. Even your art and music follow no patterns we can understand." Captain Somin looked confused. "Is that good or bad?" General Thorak answered with what might have been a laugh. "Against the Velthon Empire, it might be exactly what we need. They defeat us because they predict our moves. They understand our logic. But how do you fight an enemy that has no logic?" Speaker Veltara moved to stand before Admiral Hyunwoo, her forearms spread in what he recognized as a gesture of pleading. "Admiral, we have lost everything trying to fight them with order and strategy. Our best tactical minds have failed. Our most advanced weapons have been turned against us. We need something they cannot understand or predict." The chamber fell silent. Hyunwoo could feel the weight of billions of lives pressing down on him. Earth had only recently learned it was not alone in the galaxy. Now they were being asked to save it. "What exactly are you asking of humanity?" he said finally. "Join our alliance," Veltara replied. "Bring your fleets. Share your chaotic warfare. Help us fight in ways the Velthon Empire cannot counter." Captain Somin moved closer to her admiral. "Sir, Earth's population is only 8 billion. Some of these species have trillions of people. Why us?" Dr. Nexular answered. "Because, Captain, when we scanned your escort ships, we found something remarkable. Your weapon systems modify themselves during combat. Your shield frequencies change randomly. Even your navigation computers seem to guess rather than calculate." "That's not guessing," So-min protested. "That's adaptive technology and intuitive piloting." "Exactly," Dr. Nexler said. "You fight with intuition. The Velthon Empire fights with logic. Logic can be predicted. Intuition cannot." Admiral Hyunwoo thought about Earth's history. Humanity had fought wars for thousands of years. They had developed weapons that other species would consider insane. They had used tactics that broke every rule of civilized warfare. Maybe that was exactly what this galaxy needed. "If we agree to this alliance," he said, "humanity fights the way humanity fights. We don't follow your rules of war. We don't use your strategies. We do things our way." "That is what we are hoping for," Veltara said. Hyunwoo looked at Captain Somin. She nodded slightly. Earth's government had given them authority to make this decision. The vote had been unanimous after seeing the refugee camps. "Very well," Admiral Hyunwoo said. "Humanity accepts the alliance. But I warn you all, when we fight to win. And sometimes winning requires doing terrible things." General Thorax stood and brought his armored fist to his chest in salute. "Admiral, we have tried honor and failed. We have tried strategy and failed. Perhaps it is time to try terrible things." As the council members began planning their next moves, none of them noticed the deep space sensors detecting new signals from the galactic core. Ancient, powerful signals that had been silent for millions of years. The Velthon Empire was not the greatest threat the galaxy faced. They were merely the warning that something far worse was awakening. 3 weeks after joining the Galactic Alliance, humanity began to show the galaxy why Earth had remained hidden for so long. Commander Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought Soul's Pride, watching as alien observers tried to understand what they were seeing. "Commander," said Dr. Velnara, a luminary scientist assigned to study human warfare, Your weapons are changing their configuration every few minutes. This should not be possible. Tejo smiled. Doctor, you've been thinking about weapons wrong. You build a plasma cannon, and it stays a plasma cannon forever. We build weapons that learn. On the main screen, the human fleet spread out in what looked like complete chaos. Ships moved in random patterns, changing speed and direction without any clear purpose. To alien observers, it looked like madness. Engineer Yu Jin worked at her station, her fingers dancing over controls that modified themselves as she used them. Tejo, the Mandorian ships are trying to form up with us. They keep asking for our battle formation. Tell them we don't have formations, Tejo replied. We have suggestions. Dr. Velnara's crystalline body flickered with confusion. How do you coordinate attacks without formations? How do you plan strategies without predictable movements? Lieutenant Keybum looked up from the communications station. Ma'am, we don't plan. We adapt. Watch this. He activated a combat simulation on the main screen. A group of human ships faced off against a theoretical enemy fleet. Instead of following pre-planned movements, each human ship seemed to make its own decisions. They worked together, but in ways that seemed to break every rule of military science. This is impossible, Dr. Velnara said. Your ships should collide. Your weapons should hit each other. Your communications should be chaos. It probably looks that way, Yujin said, checking her screens. But look closer. See how each ship leaves space for the others? See how they cover each other's blind spots without being told? That's not chaos. That's jazz. Jazz? Dr. Velnara asked. Commander Tejo nodded. It's a human musical form. Musicians play together without a written score. They listen to each other and create music in real time. That's how we fight. On another part of the fleet, Dr. Yunji was making an even more disturbing discovery. Her xenobiology team had captured a Velthon neural control device during a recent skirmish. The device was designed to take over alien minds and turn them into weapons. Dr. Yunji, said her assistant, researcher Minseok. We've tested the device on volunteers from 12 different species. It works on all of them within minutes. And humans? Dr. Yunji asked, though she already knew the answer. Complete. Failure, Minseok replied. The device cannot establish a connection with human neural patterns. It's like trying to control static. Dr. Yunji studied the brain scans on her screen. Human neural activity looked different from every other species they had encountered. Where alien brains showed organized patterns, human brains showed controlled chaos. Minseok, look at these readings. Other species think in straight lines. Humans think in spirals. The Velthon control technology expects logic. We give it madness. Meanwhile, on the ground training facility, Private Dong Hyun was teaching alien soldiers tactics that made no sense to them. His squad moved through the mock battlefield like ghosts, appearing where enemies didn't expect them. Private Dong Hyun, said Captain Zextar of the Korthak forces, your soldiers broke formation. They left their assigned positions. By all military doctrine, they should have failed this exercise. Dong Hyun wiped sweat from his forehead. Captain, formations are for parades. In real combat, formations get you killed. But how do you coordinate? Without formations? Zextar asked. We coordinate by not coordinating, Dong Hyun replied. Watch! He signaled his squad to begin another exercise. This time, the alien observers watched more carefully. They saw human soldiers communicate with hand signals, but also with looks, sounds, and sometimes what seemed like pure intuition. Your soldiers are reading each other's minds, Zextar said in amazement. Not minds, Dong Hyun corrected. Body language, breathing patterns, micro-expressions. Humans are social hunters, Captain. We evolved to work together without formal communication. On the technical side, Engineer Eugene was showing alien scientists weapons that should not exist. She held up what looked like a simple projectile launcher. "This is a kinetic accelerator," she explained to a group of Luminari engineers. "It fires metal slugs using magnetic fields." Dr. Nexalar, who had joined the technical review, examined the weapon. "This is primitive technology. Our energy weapons are far more efficient." Eugene grinned. "Watch this." She fired the weapon at a test target. The metal slug punched through 3 layers of advanced alien armor that would have stopped any energy. "Weapon!" "Impossible," Dr. Nexalar said. "Energy weapons are superior to kinetic weapons. This violates basic physics." "No," Eugene said. "It violates basic thinking. You assume energy weapons are better because they're more complex. Sometimes simple works better." She showed them another human weapon, a missile that changed its own targeting system mid-flight. "This missile doesn't know what it's supposed to hit when we fire it," she explained. "It decides when it gets there." The alien engineers looked horrified. "What if it targets the wrong thing?" "Then it learns and tries again," Eugene said. "Human. Weapons are allowed to make mistakes. That's how they get better." Dr. Yunji joined the technical demonstration with her biological findings. "The reason human weapons can make mistakes is the same reason humans resist mind control. Our brains are comfortable with uncertainty." She showed them brain scans comparing humans to other species. "Look at these patterns. When a Korthak faces an unknown situation, their brain activity spikes with stress. When a human faces the same situation, their brain activity actually becomes more organized." "You're saying humans get calmer when things get chaotic?" Dr. Nexalar asked. "Exactly," Dr. Yunji replied. "We evolved in chaotic environments. Other species evolved in stable ones. When everything goes wrong, we get better. When everything goes wrong for you, you get worse." Commander Tejo brought all these discoveries together in his final report to Admiral Hyunwoo. "Sir, the aliens fight like they think, logically, predictably, efficiently. The Velthon Empire beats them because they think the same way, just better." Admiral Hyunwoo reviewed the data. "And we fight like we think, chaotically, unpredictably, creatively." "Yes, sir. The Velthon Empire's computers can predict any logical strategy, but they can't predict jazz." As the human fleet prepared for their first real engagement with Velthon forces, they didn't know they were about to trigger something far worse than anything the galaxy had faced before. Deep space monitors detected massive energy signatures beginning to stir in the galactic core, responding to the quantum chaos of human technology. The Velthon Empire had been preparing for this moment for centuries. They knew what was coming, and they knew that only chaos could fight it. The Nexus Gate hung in space like a giant metal ring, connecting 2 distant parts of the galaxy. For 3 days, the combined Alliance fleet had waited here, knowing the Velthon Empire would eventually come through. Colonel Ji-hoon studied the tactical display from his command ship while hundreds of alien vessels formed perfect battle lines around him. "Colonel," said Captain Raxvan of the Mandorian fleet, "our formations are complete. We are ready for standard engagement protocols." Ji-hoon looked at the organized fleet formation and shook his head. "Captain, cancel those formations. I need your ships to look like they're running away." "Running away?" Raxvan's voice showed confusion and anger. "Mandorians do not run from battle." "You're not running," Ji-hoon explained. "You're acting. When the Velthon ships come through that gate, I want them to think they've already won." On the other side of the fleet, Pilot Haewon checked her fighter's systems one more time. Her small ship was hidden inside what looked like a civilian cargo freighter. 50 other human pilots were hidden the same way, scattered throughout the fake refugee convoy. "Hey, one," came Commander Tejo's voice over the radio. "Remember, wait for my signal. Let them get close." "Copy that, Commander," Haywan replied. "How close?" "Close enough to see their faces," Tejo said. Dr. Velnara watched from the science station aboard Soul's Pride. Her crystalline body flickered with nervous energy as she tried to understand the human battle plan. "Commander Tejo," she said, "your strategy violates every principle of space combat. You're using civilian ships as weapons platforms. You're positioning your fleet to look defeated. This is madness." Tejo smiled. "Doctor, madness is exactly what we're counting on." The space around the Nexus gate suddenly rippled. Warning alarms sounded across the fleet as massive shapes began emerging from the portal. The Veilthon ships were unlike anything in the Alliance fleet, dark, organic-looking vessels that seemed to grow rather than be built. 18 dreadnoughts, reported Lieutenant Kibum. 200 escort vessels. They're scanning our formations. "Captain," Raxvin's voice came over the communications channel. "Colonel Ji-hoon, they are targeting our command ships. Should we engage?" "No," Ji-hoon replied calmly. "Let them target you. Start your retreat." The Mandorian ships began pulling back, just as they had practiced. To the Veilthon fleet, it looked like the Alliance was already beaten. The alien ships accelerated forward, confident in their superiority. Inside her hidden fighter, pilot Haywan watched the enemy fleet close in. Through her cockpit window, she could see the strange, pulsing lights that covered the Veilthon ships. Their technology was definitely biological, but twisted into something unnatural. "All units," came Tejo's voice. "They're taking the bait. Freighter 7, begin your approach." Captain So-min commanded Freighter 7, which looked like a simple cargo ship trying to escape the battle. Inside its cargo bay, however, were 40 fusion warheads and a team of volunteers who knew they weren't coming back. "Copy that, Command," So-min said. "Beginning approach run." The Veilthon ships ignored the fleeing freighter. Their sensors showed it was just another civilian vessel. Their computers calculated no threat from such a primitive ship. "Colonel," Dr. Velnara said urgently, "the Veilthon ships are using neural weapons on the Mandorian fleet. They're trying to take control of Captain Raxvin's crew." "Perfect," Ji-hoon replied. "Let them try." The Veilthon neural control beams struck the Mandorian ships, expecting to turn them into weapons. Instead, they found something unexpected. Human neural patterns mixed into the crew. Dr. Eunji's people had prepared for this. "What's happening?" Dr. Velnara asked, as the enemy ships suddenly stopped their attack. "The Veilthon computers are confused," Ji-hoon explained. "They can read Mandorian minds but not human ones. So they're getting mixed signals from the ships that have human advisors aboard." Captain Raxvin's voice came over the radio, sounding amazed. "Colonel, their control beams are not working. My crew remains free." "Good," Ji-hoon said. "Now comes the fun part. All civilian ships, drop your disguises." Across the battlefield, what looked like helpless refugee vessels suddenly opened hidden weapon bays. Pilot Haywan's fighter burst from its hiding place inside the freighter, along with dozens of others. "This is Phoenix Squadron," Haywan reported. "We are weapons hot and targeting enemy engines." The Veilthon fleet found themselves surrounded by enemies they had completely missed. Their advanced sensors had looked for military ships and found only civilians. They hadn't expected the civilians to be military ships in disguise. "All Alliance vessels," Ji-hoon commanded, "begin the real attack. Show them what happens when they underestimate chaos. Captain So-Min's freighter reached the center of the Valthon formation. "This is Freighter 7, she said calmly. "Beginning. Final approach." "Captain," Tejo said over the radio, "you can still abort. Launch the warheads and get out." "Negative, Commander," So-Min replied. "My ship's too damaged to escape. Besides, this way we can be sure they hit." The massive explosion that followed destroyed 3 Valthon dreadnoughts and crippled 2 more. But more importantly, it created exactly the kind of chaos that human tactics thrived in. "All fighters," Hai Wan called out. "The enemy formation is broken. Attack pattern random. Don't let them predict your moves." Human fighters swarmed through the confused Valthon fleet like angry insects. They flew in patterns that made no sense, attacked targets that seemed unimportant, and changed tactics every few seconds. Captain Boram, commanding a human destroyer, watched her sensors track the battle. "The Valthon computers are overloading," she reported. "They can't process our attack patterns." The enemy ships began firing at random, hitting each other as often as they hit Alliance vessels. Their perfect coordination collapsed into confusion as their tactical computers tried and failed to predict human behavior. "Colonel Ji-hoon," called Captain Raxvan, "the enemy is retreating. Should we pursue?" "No," Ji-hoon replied. "Let them go. They need to report what happened here." As the surviving Valthon ships fled back through the Nexus Gate, they carried with them data that would puzzle their empire for months. Every tactical analysis failed. Every computer simulation produced different results. The humans had introduced true chaos into a perfectly ordered system. Dr. Velnara approached Commander Tejo after the battle. "Commander, I must ask, how did you know that strategy would work?" "Doctor," Tejo said, "we didn't know. That's the point. If we don't know what we're going to do, neither can they." Captain Boram was studying the sensor logs when she noticed something strange. "Commander, look at these readings. During the battle, our quantum signatures somehow synchronized with the enemy's. It's like our chaos infected their order." "What does that mean?" Tejo asked. "I'm not sure," Boram admitted. "But I'm detecting new energy patterns from the galactic core. Big ones. It's like something heard our battle and woke up. Far away, in the deepest parts of space, ancient sensors that had slept for millions of years began to register familiar patterns. The chaotic quantum signatures of the human fleet matched something in their vast databases, something that should have been extinct long ago. The Black Armada, dormant since the fall of the last galactic civilization, began to stir. Their dark ships sensed the return of their ancient enemy, the unpredictable chaos that had once driven them into hiding. The Valthon Empire fled not just from the Alliance fleet, but from the knowledge that their careful preparations for the Black Armada's return had been shattered by a species they had never planned for. The humans weren't just allies in this war. They were the key to a conflict that had been waiting for millions of years to resume. Dr. Jinneh had always been fascinated by ancient languages, but the symbols on the captured Valthon data cores made her head hurt. The ship they had recovered from the Nexus Gate battle contained information that seemed impossible. References to civilizations that existed before any known galactic history. "Professor Minho," she called to her colleague across the research lab, "look at this translation. The Valthon records mention something called the Black Armada 17 times in this single data core." Minho set down his analysis tools and walked over to Jinneh's workstation. The elderly scholar had spent his life studying galactic archaeology, but these findings challenged everything he thought he knew. "Show me," he said, adjusting his glasses. Ginny pointed to the holographic text floating above her desk. According to this, the Velthon Empire built their entire civilization on stolen technology. Technology they found in ruins that predate every known species. "That's impossible," Minho said. "The Corvanic civilization is 12 million years old. Nothing predates them." "This does," Ginny replied grimly. "Look at the dating markers in the Velthon text. They reference civilizations that existed 50 million years ago, and they all ended the same way, consumed by something called the Black Armada." On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Wu Jin was discovering that the ancient past was not as dead as everyone believed. His deep space reconnaissance ship, Busan Explorer, had been sent to investigate the strange energy readings coming from the galactic core. "Captain," said Navigator Yang He, studying the sensor display, "these readings don't match any known technology. The energy signatures are off the scale." Wu Jin moved to the science station where Lieutenant Ha Young was running every scan their ship could manage. The young officer looked confused and slightly frightened. "Captain, look at this," Ha Young said. "The structures we're detecting are massive. We're talking about constructs the size of solar systems." "Are they ships?" Wu Jin asked. "I don't think so, sir. They're too big to be ships. But they're not natural either. They're arranged in patterns, like a fleet formation. But a fleet formation that could hold 10,000 normal fleets." Yang He adjusted the long-range sensors, trying to get a clearer picture. "Captain, some of these structures are beginning to move. After millions of years of dormancy, they're awakening." Back on the research station, Dr. Jin A made a discovery that chilled her to the bone. Hidden in the deepest levels of the Velthon, data was a single file that required every decryption tool she had to unlock. "Minho, you need to see this," she said, her voice barely a whisper. The translated text appeared on the main hologram, and both scholars read it in growing horror. "The Black Armada returns every 50 million years. They consume civilizations, not for resources but for order. They feed on the organized patterns of advanced societies. Only chaos can resist them. Only chaos can drive them back into sleep. We have gathered what we could. We have prepared what we can. When they wake, we will have 10,000 ships ready to serve them. We pray it will be enough to spare our core worlds." Minho sat down heavily. "The Velthon Empire isn't trying to conquer the galaxy. They're trying to appease something that wants to consume it." Dr. Ginny continued reading the ancient text. "Listen to this. In the previous cycle, the Chaos Bringers drove back the Black Armada. They were called many names: the Pattern Breakers, the Void-Touched, the Children of Stars. They fought with weapons that existed in quantum uncertainty. They won through madness, what order could not achieve." "The previous cycle," Minho repeated. "These records suggest this has happened before." Meanwhile, Captain Wu Jin was getting a closer look at the awakening structures in the galactic core. What he saw defied description. "Lieutenant Ha Young, record everything," he ordered. "Command needs to see this." The massive structures were, indeed, moving. They unfolded like sleeping giants, revealing shapes that hurt to look at directly. Some seemed to exist in more dimensions than normal space could contain. Others phased in and out of reality as if deciding whether to exist or not. "Captain," Yang He said urgently, "I'm detecting launch signatures. Something is coming out of those structures." On the main screen, dark shapes began emerging from the massive constructs. They moved with purpose, accelerating toward the outer galaxy at speeds that should have been impossible. "How many ships?" Wu Jin asked. Ha-Young checked and rechecked her readings. "Sir, I count over 3 million vessels in the first wave alone, and more are launching every minute. Get us out of here," Wu Jin ordered. "Full speed back to Alliance space. We need to warn everyone." Dr. Jin A was making her own disturbing discoveries in the ancient records. The more she translated, the more she understood why the Velthon Empire had been so desperate to control the galaxy. "Minho, look at this tactical analysis," she said. "The Black Armada doesn't fight like any known military force. They don't destroy planets with weapons. They simply absorb them." "Absorb them how?" Minho asked. "According to this, they exist, partially outside normal space-time. When they engage a civilization, they pull entire star systems into their dimensional space. The civilizations don't get destroyed. They get added to the Armada." Minho studied the ancient diagrams showing the Black Armada's expansion patterns. "So every civilization they've ever conquered is still alive somewhere inside their fleet." "Not just alive," Jin'e said grimly. "According to these records, they're conscious and aware. The Black Armada turns entire civilizations into components of their ships. The implications hit both scholars at the same time. Every galactic civilization had myths about dark ships that stole souls. Now they knew those myths were historical records. Captain Wu Jin's ship raced toward Alliance space, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the first scouts of the Black Armada began their journey toward the outer galaxy. They moved through space like dark ghosts, leaving no trace except the gradual dimming of stars in their wake. "Captain," Ha-Young reported, "I'm detecting something else. The dark ships are scanning for specific quantum signatures." "What kind of signatures?" Wu Jin asked. "The same kind our human allies produce, sir. They're looking for chaos patterns." As the Busan Explorer jumped to faster-than-light speed, its crew carried the knowledge that humanity was not just another species joining an alliance. They were the return of something the Black Armada had been searching for across millions of years. Dr. Jin A's final translation confirmed their worst fears. When the Chaos Bringers return, the Black Armada will wake. The final cycle will begin. Order and chaos will battle for the right to exist. Only one can survive. The galaxy was about to learn that its current war with the Velthon Empire had been nothing more than preparation for a conflict that spanned geological time, and at the center of it all was humanity. The species that brought chaos wherever they went, and the only hope for breaking a cycle of destruction that had claimed countless civilizations before. The ancient enemy was awakening, and they were coming home. General Kyung-Soo had commanded military evacuations before, but nothing could have prepared him for what was happening to the core worlds. The first Black Armada ships had arrived at Altair Prime 3 hours ago, and the planet was already gone. "General," reported Commander Park Soo-jin from the bridge of the evacuation vessel Incheon Dawn, "Altair Prime is no longer registering on our sensors. Not destroyed, just gone." Kyung-Soo stared at the empty space where a planet holding 6 billion beings had existed that morning. No debris, no explosion, no trace that anything had ever been there except a slowly fading energy signature. "How is that possible?" he asked. Dr. Yan Wu, the fleet's theoretical physicist, looked up from her instruments with wide, frightened eyes. "General, the quantum readings suggest the planet was pulled into a parallel dimensional space. The Black Armada didn't destroy it. They took it somewhere else." Admiral Sung Ho's voice crackled over the communications system from his flagship. All evacuation fleets. This is Alliance Command. We have reports of Black Armada ships arriving at 7 more core worlds. Estimated arrival at Earth, 18 hours. The evacuation fleet consisted of everything the Alliance could gather. Human ships, Mandorian battle cruisers, luminary science vessels, and thousands of civilian craft. They raced through space carrying the survivors of worlds that were vanishing faster than anyone could evacuate them. "General," Su Jin called out. "Incoming transmission from the surface of Kepler Station. It's impossible." The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of Dr. Martinez, a human scientist who had been working on the station when the Black Armada arrived. But something was wrong with the image. It kept shifting, showing multiple versions of the same person. "This is Dr. Martinez," the figure said, but his voice echoed strangely. "I'm transmitting from inside the Black Armada ship. We're alive, but we're not. We're part of something now." Kyung-soo leaned forward. "Doctor, what happened to Kepler Station?" "We were absorbed," Martinez replied. "The entire station, all 3 million people. We exist in their dimensional space now. We can see everything. Past, present, future. We're components of their ship's consciousness." Dr. Yan-Wu began frantically taking readings. "General, the transmission is coming from multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. He's existing in several realities at once." The image of Dr. Martinez flickered again. "General, I can see their plans. They're not just conquering the galaxy, they're collecting it. Every civilization they've ever absorbed is still alive inside their fleet. Billions of species, trillions of minds, all connected." "Why are they doing this?" Kyung-soo asked. "They're preparing for something," Martinez said, his voice becoming more distorted. "Something they call the final convergence. They need enough consciousness to break through." The transmission cut off abruptly as the Black Armada ship, carrying Kepler Station, disappeared into faster-than-light travel. Meanwhile, Admiral Sung Ho was coordinating the evacuation of 17 core worlds simultaneously. His flagship Soul's Thunder had become the mobile command center for the largest refugee operation in galactic history. "Admiral," reported Captain Lee Min-jung, "we've successfully evacuated the primary population centers from Rigel 7, but the Black Armada ships are moving faster than our projections indicated." Sung Ho studied the tactical display showing the enemy advance. The dark ships moved through space like a living tide, absorbing everything in their path. But their movement patterns were strange. They seemed to be searching for something specific. "Captain, analyze their approach vectors. Are they targeting military installations?" Min-jung ran the calculations and frowned. "No, sir. They're targeting worlds with the highest quantum chaos readings, worlds where humans have been stationed." The implications hit Sung Ho immediately. "They're hunting us specifically." Dr. Yan-Wu, monitoring from the science station, confirmed his fears. "Admiral, the Black Armada ships are scanning for human neural patterns. Every world they've absorbed first had a significant human presence. On the evacuation ship, Busan Mercy, Commander Oh Ye-jin was discovering just how alien the Black Armada truly was. Her ship had been caught in the dimensional wake of a passing dark vessel, and for a few terrifying seconds, they had experienced what it was like to exist in the enemy's space. "Commander," reported her navigation officer, "during the dimensional overlap, our sensors detected something inside the Black Armada ship. It wasn't just Kepler Station. There were structures from hundreds of different civilizations, all somehow existing in the same space." Ye-jin reviewed the sensor logs. What she saw made no sense according to normal physics. The inside of the Black Armada ship contained entire cities from different worlds, different time periods, all somehow connected in impossible ways. They're not ships, she realized. They're pocket universes. Each one contains everything they've ever absorbed. As the evacuation fleets raced toward the outer rim, they began encountering refugees from the Valthon Empire. The same aliens who had been conquering the galaxy were now fleeing in terror from the Black Armada. General Kyung-soo found himself in the strange position of coordinating with Valthon military commanders who, days earlier, had been trying to kill him. "General Kyung-soo," said Valthon Fleet Commander Zelnath over a secure channel, "our preparations were insufficient. We gathered 10,000 ships, 50 billion mines, entire planets converted to bioweapons. The Black Armada absorbed everything. In minutes." "Commander," Kyung-soo replied, "what exactly are we fighting?" "The end of this galactic cycle," Zelnath said grimly. "Every 50 million years they return. They collect every advanced civilization and add it to their fleet. Then they sleep until the next cycle begins." Kyung-soo's blood ran cold. "You're saying this has happened before?" "Many times. We found records in ancient ruins. The Black Armada has consumed thousands of galactic civilizations. They store them all in dimensional space, keeping them alive as components of their consciousness." Dr. Yan Wu, listening to the conversation, made a disturbing connection. "General, if they've been doing this for millions of years, that means they contain the accumulated knowledge and technology of every advanced species in galactic history. The full scope of what they were facing began to sink in. The Black Armada wasn't just a fleet of ships. It was a collection of every civilization that had ever reached technological advancement, all merged into a single, incomprehensibly vast intelligence. "Commander Zelnath," Kyung-soo said, "in your records, has anyone ever successfully resisted them?" "Once," Zelnath replied. "In the previous cycle, there was a species that fought them to a standstill. The records are unclear about what happened, but somehow the Black Armada was forced to retreat. What was special about that species? They were called the Pattern Breakers. According to the ancient texts, they fought with chaos itself as a weapon. They used quantum uncertainty as a shield. They were unpredictable." Dr. Yanwu looked at General Kyung-soo with growing understanding. "Sir, the quantum chaos signatures that the Black Armada is hunting for, they match human neural patterns exactly. The realization hit everyone on the bridge simultaneously. Humanity wasn't just another species caught in this cosmic conflict. They were the return of the only force that had ever successfully opposed the Black Armada." As the evacuation fleets continued their desperate flight toward the outer rim, deep space sensors detected more Black Armada ships emerging from the galactic core. Millions of dark vessels, each one containing the absorbed civilizations of previous galactic cycles. The final battle was approaching, and humanity was about to discover that their chaotic nature wasn't an evolutionary accident. It was their inheritance from ancestors who had fought this same war 50 million years ago. Commander Insu had always wondered why human ruins on Earth were so much older than official history claimed. Now, standing in the ancient archive vault beneath the surface of Mars, he was getting answers he wished he had never sought. The vault had been discovered when Black Armada energy signatures triggered hidden systems throughout human space. Doors that had been sealed for 50 million years suddenly opened, revealing technology that belonged to no known human civilization. "Commander," said Dr. Chang Min, the expedition's archaeologist, These symbols match the pattern breaker language from the Valthon records, but they're written in proto-human script. Insu studied the massive wall of symbols that had begun glowing when he approached. The text seemed to respond to his presence, shifting and changing as if it were alive. "What does it say?" he asked. Chang Min worked with his translation algorithms, his face growing pale as the meaning became clear. "Sir, it's a message from our ancestors. It says, 'To those who carry our chaos, when the Dark Fleet returns, remember what you are. Remember what you were made to fight.'" On the other side of human space, Captain Su Young was making her own. Disturbing discoveries aboard the research vessel Daegu Horizon. Her team had been investigating the quantum anomalies that human technology produced when they encountered something impossible. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Choi Hee-min, "the ancient human ruins on Proxima Colony are activating. Every piece of technology we thought was primitive is suddenly showing advanced capabilities." Su Young watched on the main screen as structures that archaeologists had dismissed as simple buildings began reconfiguring themselves into complex defensive installations. Weapons that had been considered ceremonial artifacts powered up with energy readings that exceeded anything in the current human arsenal. "He-Min, run a quantum analysis on those weapons. I want to know what we're looking at." The results were staggering. "Captain, these weapons operate on principles we don't understand. They seem to fire probability itself. They shoot quantum uncertainty at targets." Dr. Chang Min's voice came over the communication system from the Mars archive. "Captain, Su Young, I need you to hear this. I've translated more of the ancient message. It explains everything." The transmission crackled with interference as Chang Min read from the ancient text. "We are the children of the pattern breakers, scattered across the galaxy after the last great war. Our memories were sealed, our technology hidden, our chaos made dormant. We were placed on a world called Earth to wait for the Dark Fleet's return." Insu felt a chill run down his spine. "Chang Min, are you saying humans aren't native to Earth?" "That's exactly what I'm saying, sir. According to this, humanity is the scattered remnant of an ancient civilization designed specifically to fight. The Black Armada. We're not explorers who happen to develop chaotic thinking. We're weapons that forgot what we were made for." Captain Su Young's technical officer, Lieutenant Nari, was discovering just how literal that statement was. As she examined the awakening human technology, she found something that challenged everything she thought she knew about engineering. "Captain, these ancient weapons are integrating with our current technology. My console just developed capabilities that shouldn't exist." Su Young watched as Nari's standard navigation system began displaying information about dimensional space, quantum probability fields, and reality manipulation techniques that human science hadn't discovered yet. "It's like our modern technology was designed to connect with these ancient systems," Nari continued. "Our computers are accepting upgrades from machines that are 50 million years old." Back in the Mars archive, Commander Insu was reading sections of the ancient record that explained humanity's true purpose. The text described a war that spanned multiple galactic cycles, fought between order and chaos on a scale that dwarfed current understanding. "Chang Min, look at this section," he said. "It describes the pattern breakers' final strategy. They couldn't destroy the Black Armada, so they scattered themselves across time and space. They hid their essence in chaos itself, waiting for the right moment to return." Chang Min studied the glowing symbols. "Sir, if this is accurate, then every human alive is carrying dormant memories and abilities from our ancestors. The Black Armada forced us to evolve beyond normal physical existence, What do you mean? According to this text, the original pattern breakers learned to exist in quantum superposition. They became beings of pure possibility rather than fixed reality. That's why human behavior is unpredictable. We're not entirely bound by normal physical laws. On the Daegu horizon, Captain Su Young was witnessing the truth of Chang Min's translation. Lieutenant Nari had begun operating her console in ways that defied physics, accessing information from systems that existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. "Captain," Nari said, her voice taking on an odd harmonic quality, "I can see the Black Armada's fleet patterns. Not just where they are, but where they will be. The ancient technology is showing me probability cascades." "How is that possible?" Su Young asked. "I don't think it is possible, ma'am. I think I'm doing something that breaks possibility itself." Across human space, similar awakenings were occurring. Human crews found their ships developing capabilities that their designers had never programmed. Weapon systems began firing ammunition that existed in quantum uncertainty. Shields started deflecting attacks by making them probabilistically unlikely to hit. Dr. Chang Min made the most disturbing discovery of all in the deepest sections of the Mars archive. The final message from humanity's ancestors explained not just what they were, but what they would have to become. "Commander In-Su," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "The last section of the text is a warning. It says that to defeat the Black Armada, we have to fully embrace our chaotic nature. We have to stop being human as we understand it." "What does that mean?" Chang Min read directly from the ancient symbols. "When the final hour comes, the children of chaos must abandon fixed existence. You must become probability incarnate. You must sacrifice your individual selves to become the quantum storm that can unmake order itself." In-Su stared at the glowing text. "Our ancestors are telling us that to save the galaxy, humanity has to stop existing as individual beings." "Not stop existing," Chang Min corrected. "Transform into something beyond individual existence. Become a collective consciousness of pure chaos." The implications were staggering. To defeat the Black Armada, humanity would have to undergo the same kind of transformation that their enemies had forced upon countless civilizations. They would have to merge into a single entity, but an entity of chaos rather than order. "Captain." Su Young's ship suddenly received a transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Hyun Woo's face appeared on the screen, but there was something different about him. His eyes showed a depth of knowledge that hadn't been there before. "All human vessels," he said, "report to the outer rim coordinates I'm transmitting. The ancient protocols are activating across our entire fleet. It's time to remember what we really are." As human ships throughout the galaxy received their new orders, their crews began experiencing memories that weren't their own. Visions of battles fought across cosmic distances, of weapons that reshaped reality itself, of a war that had been waiting 50 million years to resume. The descendants of the pattern breakers were awakening, and with them came the terrible knowledge that saving the galaxy would require becoming something beyond human understanding. The Black Armada had collected every ordered civilization in galactic history. Now they would face the return of the one force that embodied absolute chaos: humanity, unleashed from the constraints of individual existence. General Daeho stood on the bridge of the command ship Soul Eternal as reality itself began to bend around the human fleet. The activation of humanity's ancient heritage had triggered changes that defied every law of physics he had ever learned. "General," reported Captain Kim Jae-won, Our ships are no longer registering as solid matter on sensors. We're existing in quantum superposition. Daiho watched the tactical display as human vessels flickered in and out of existence. One moment they were solid ships with crews of thousands. The next they were probability clouds that somehow maintained consciousness and purpose. "How are we even able to communicate like this?" he asked. Engineer Hansol looked up from his console, his form shimmering slightly as he moved between dimensional states. "Sir, we're not communicating through normal space anymore. We're connected directly through quantum entanglement. The entire human fleet has become a single distributed consciousness." Pilot Yejin's voice came through the fleet network, but it wasn't transmitted by radio. Her thoughts simply appeared in everyone's mind simultaneously. "General, I can see the Black Armada's approach patterns from 17 different angles at once. They're confused by what we've become. The transformation hadn't been easy. When General Daiho first activated the ancient protocols hidden in human genetics, half the fleet thought they were dying. Crews found their individual consciousnesses merging while their bodies became unstable quantum states. "General," Hansol reported, "the alien alliance fleets are requesting orders. They can't understand what's happening to us." Daiho opened a communication channel to Admiral Sung Ho, who was coordinating with the non-human forces. "Admiral, what's the status of our allies?" "Confused and terrified, sir," Sung Ho replied. "The Mandorians are asking if we've been infected by Black Armada technology. The Luminari think we've transcended to another plane of existence." "Have we?" Daiho asked. Engineer Hansol answered while his consciousness existed simultaneously. "In 12 different locations. Sir, we've become something between matter and energy. We're conscious quantum fields that can manipulate probability itself. The Black Armada's advance had accelerated when they detected the quantum changes in the human fleet. Their dark ships moved through space like predatory shadows. But for the first time in 50 million years, they showed signs of uncertainty. Pilot Yejin, now capable of existing in multiple fighters simultaneously, engaged the first wave of enemy scouts. Her attacks weren't conventional weapons fire. She was shooting probability cascades that made enemy ships uncertain about their own existence. "This is impossible," came a transmission from a Black Armada vessel. The voice was a collective whisper of millions of absorbed minds. "You cannot be the pattern breakers. They were destroyed in the last cycle." Yejin's response echoed across dimensional boundaries. "We weren't destroyed. We were scattered. We forgot what we were, but we never stopped being chaos incarnate. General." Daiho found that commanding a quantum consciousness fleet required thinking in ways that human language couldn't properly express. Instead of giving orders, he shared intentions that rippled through the collective human awareness. "Hansol," he said, though the concept of saying had become more complex, "begin the reality modification protocols. Show the Black Armada what happens when chaos fights order directly." The human fleet began its assault on the fundamental nature of space-time itself. Ships that existed in quantum superposition fired weapons that existed in probability rather than physical form. Instead of hitting enemy vessels, the attacks made the Black Armada ships uncertain about whether they had been hit. Captain J-Wan coordinated the fleet's movements through pure thought, directing probability storms that confused the enemy's dimensional navigation. "General, the Black Armada ships are trying to retreat into their pocket dimensions, but our chaos fields are destabilizing their anchor points." The battle took place across multiple layers of reality simultaneously. In normal space, it looked like ships firing energy beams at each other. In quantum space, it was a conflict between ordered patterns and pure randomness. In dimensional space, it was a war between fixed reality and infinite possibility. Engineer Hansol made a disturbing discovery as he monitored the battle through quantum sensors that existed in 17 dimensions at once. General, the Black Armada isn't just a fleet. It's a single entity that spans multiple galactic cycles. Every ship is part of one vast consciousness. What does that mean for us? Dae-Ho asked. It means we're not fighting ships, sir. We're fighting the combined will of every civilization they've ever absorbed. Trillions of minds all working in perfect order toward a single goal. Pilot Ye Jin's awareness stretched across the battlefield as she engaged enemy vessels that contained entire absorbed civilizations. General, I can hear them. The voices of everyone the Black Armada has taken. They're still conscious inside those ships, but they can't break free from the collective order. The revelation changed the nature of their strategy. This wasn't just a military conflict. It was a battle for the liberation of every advanced civilization in galactic history. Hansol, General Dae-Ho directed through the quantum network. Can we disrupt their collective consciousness? Can we introduce chaos into their ordered minds? Theoretically, sir. But it would require us to fully embrace our chaotic nature. We'd have to abandon any remaining attachment to individual existence. The choice was stark. To save the absorbed civilizations, humanity would have to complete their transformation into beings of pure chaos. They would cease to exist as individuals and become a force of nature itself. General Dae-Ho felt the weight of the decision, but also felt the shared resolve of every human consciousness in the fleet. Through their quantum connection, he could sense their unanimous agreement. All human vessels, he broadcast through dimensional space, initiate final transformation protocols. Become the chaos storm our ancestors were meant to be. The change was immediate and terrifying. Individual human consciousnesses dissolved into a vast ocean of chaotic awareness that spanned multiple realities simultaneously. Ships became flowing, energy patterns that could exist anywhere and everywhere at once. Pilot Ye Jin was no longer a single person. She was a fragment of cosmic chaos that could pilot every ship in the fleet simultaneously while also existing as pure possibility in the spaces between dimensions. Engineer Hansol became a living probability equation that could redesign reality on the fly, making impossible technologies work through sheer quantum uncertainty. Captain J1 transformed into a command structure made of organized randomness, coordinating attacks that happened in the past, present, and future simultaneously. The Black Armada faced their ancient enemy reborn, not the pattern breakers as they had been 50 million years ago, but as they had always been meant to become. Pure chaos given consciousness and purpose. For the first time since the beginning of their existence, the Black Armada's perfect order began to crack under the assault of weaponized uncertainty. The final battle for the fate of all galactic civilization was about to begin. The final battle began in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Admiral J1 existed as a consciousness of organized chaos, coordinating attacks that happened across multiple realities at once. What had once been the human fleet was now a storm of living probability that could strike anywhere in space and time. Captain Sai Wu led the assault on the Black Armada's command nexus, but leading and assault had taken on meanings that transcended normal language. He existed as a fragment of cosmic chaos that could be everywhere the enemy wasn't expecting him to be. The Nexus is heavily defended. Si-Wu's awareness rippled through the collective human consciousness. But their defenses are based on order and prediction. They can't protect against attacks that don't follow causality. The Black Armada's response was overwhelming in its scope. Millions of dark ships emerged from dimensional space, each one containing the absorbed consciousness of entire civilizations. Their combined will pressed against the chaotic human awareness like a tide of pure order trying to impose structure on randomness itself. We are inevitable. The Black Armada's collective voice resonated across all dimensions. We are the accumulated. Wisdom of 10,000 galactic cycles. Order must prevail over chaos. Admiral J1's response came as a probability storm that made reality uncertain in a sphere around the enemy fleet. Wisdom isn't the same as understanding. You've collected knowledge, but you've forgotten how to learn. The battle that followed defied description in any normal sense. In physical space, it looked like energy beams crossing between ships. In quantum space, it was patterns of order fighting patterns of randomness. In dimensional space, it was the fundamental forces of existence warring for supremacy. Captain Si-Wu's consciousness penetrated the Black Armada's command structure, finding himself inside a vast network of absorbed minds. Trillions of beings from across galactic history, all connected in perfect order, all working toward the Black Armada's goals. But Si-Wu brought chaos into their perfect system. His presence introduced uncertainty into their calculations, randomness into their predictions. For the first time in millions of years, the absorbed civilizations began to remember what individual thought felt like. "You're still alive in there," Si-Wu whispered across dimensional boundaries to the trapped minds. "You don't have to be part of their order. Choose chaos. Choose freedom." The effect was immediate and catastrophic to the Black Armada's systems. Individual consciousnesses began asserting themselves within the collective. Ancient civilizations remembered their own cultures, their own goals, their own desires to exist independently. Meanwhile, Admiral J1 coordinated the larger assault. With tactics that existed in quantum superposition, human forces attacked the Black Armada's fleet with weapons that fired possibility itself. Instead of destroying enemy ships, they made those ships uncertain about their own existence. "Their dimensional anchors are destabilizing," reported Engineer Han Sol's consciousness from 17 different locations. "The chaos we're introducing is making them unable to maintain their pocket universe storage systems." The result was something the Black Armada had never experienced: absorbed civilizations beginning to break free from their dimensional prisons. Entire species that had been consumed millions of years ago suddenly found themselves existing independently again. The Corvanic civilization, absorbed 12 million years earlier, emerged from a Black Armada ship as pure energy beings who had learned to exist without physical form. The ancient Zelkons, consumed in the previous galactic cycle, materialized as crystalline entities that sang their freedom across multiple dimensions. "This is impossible." The Black Armada's collective voice showed strain for the first time. "Order cannot be defeated by chaos. Structure cannot be overcome by randomness." Captain Si-Wu's awareness, now spread throughout the enemy's command systems, found the source of their certainty. A core consciousness that predated all the absorbed civilizations. The original Black Armada entity, the first being to choose absolute order over any other possibility. "You're afraid," Si-Wu realized. "You've been afraid for 50 million years. That's why you absorb civilizations instead of destroying them. You're trying to convince yourself that order is better by forcing everyone to agree with you. The ancient consciousness recoiled from this chaotic insight. Order brings peace. Order brings stability. Order brings survival. Order brings stagnation, Siwu replied, his chaotic nature introducing uncertainty into the core entity's absolute convictions. Growth requires change. Change requires chaos. You've been running from the possibility of being wrong for so long that you've forgotten how to grow. Admiral J-Wan pressed the fleet's advantage as more absorbed civilizations broke free from the Black Armada's control. Each liberated species added their own unique form of chaos to the battle, creating a storm of possibility that the enemy's ordered systems couldn't process. The Black Armada's fleet began to collapse, not from external attack, but from internal contradiction. Civilizations that had been forced into perfect order for millions of years suddenly remembered what it meant to disagree, to question, to choose different paths. We offer you the same choice. Admiral J-Wan's consciousness reached out to the core Black Armada entity. Join the chaos. Learn to exist with uncertainty. Stop trying to control everything and start learning to adapt to anything. The ancient consciousness faced a decision it hadn't made in 50 million years, whether to maintain its absolute order or embrace the possibility of change. For a moment that lasted eons, the fate of the galaxy hung in balance. Then slowly, the Black Armada's core consciousness began to fragment, not destroyed, but choosing to become multiple independent entities rather than one unified order. I choose to learn, the ancient voice said, no longer collective, but individual. We choose to grow. The transformation rippled through the entire Black Armada fleet. Dark ships that had terrorized the galaxy for cosmic ages began to change, their absorbed civilizations emerging as free entities, while their core technologies became tools for exploration rather than conquest. As the immediate threat ended, the human consciousness faced its own choice. They could remain as beings of pure chaos, or they could find a way to return to individual existence while retaining their newfound abilities. Admiral J-Wan made the decision for all of them. We choose both. We choose to be individuals who can become collective when needed. We choose to be chaotic beings who can create order when necessary. The human fleet began to coalesce back into individual ships and crews, but the quantum connections remained. Pilot Ye Jin found herself back in a single fighter, but with the ability to coordinate with the entire fleet through quantum entanglement. Engineer Han Sol returned to his normal form, but with the knowledge of how to manipulate probability itself. Captain Sai Wu emerged from the Black Armada's former command nexus, now a peaceful research station staffed by formerly absorbed civilizations working together to understand the cosmos. The galaxy that emerged from the conflict was fundamentally different. Thousands of ancient civilizations had been freed from their dimensional prisons. The Black Armada's technology became tools for exploration and growth rather than conquest and control. Humanity established itself as the guardian of galactic chaos, not destructive randomness, but the healthy uncertainty that allowed civilizations to grow and change. They built academies where young beings from across the galaxy learned that order and chaos could work together, each making the other stronger. Dr. Min Kyung, now director of the Galactic Chaos Institute, established protocols for the next cycle, because the patterns of cosmic history suggested that in another million years, new threats would emerge that required the balance of order and chaos to overcome. Cadet Hyo Jin, one of the first students in the new academy, learned to pilot ships that existed in quantum superposition while maintaining his individual consciousness. He represented humanity's future, beings who could be both chaotic and ordered, individual and collective as the situation required. The galaxy was safe because humanity had remembered its true nature, not conquerors or explorers, but gardeners of possibility. They ensured that the cosmos remained a place where new ideas could grow, where different ways of thinking could coexist, and where the future remained uncertain enough to be worth living. Sometimes the greatest act of creation was the willingness to embrace destruction. Sometimes the greatest wisdom was the courage to remain ignorant of some things. And sometimes the best way to fight monsters was to remember that even monsters could choose to change. The Black Armada slept once more, but this time by choice rather than defeat, and humanity stood watch over a galaxy that was finally free to become whatever it chose to be.